It kicked me out. I'm not here for that. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. But as I said in my last live, that why are we not holding these people that are in power accountable? That is something that we need to be doing. We cannot be sitting up here and continuing to let this type of behavior go on, and then to let them constantly be protected. That's the only way to have true harmony, like in life, if everyone is treated to the same standard and held to the same standard. And that's one thing that I truly believe. And that's one thing that, is actually very scary, that we are allowing this type of behavior to go on. It's very, very scary that we're more willing to accept continued hate than to hold those that are actually causing the hate and the suppression accountable. That is one thing that needs to stop. All this fake outrage that we be having for other groups and other people, but can't have it for those that have some sort of power or are viewed as knowledgeable or just wealthy. And now I'm finding that when we look at a lot of the things that are coming out, it's not necessarily based on race, and that also can align back with Black History Month and a lesson of Black History Month as well. Because when we looked at the past, it was not just about race, but about class. Where did you fall in class? Because those that were at the lower level, they were doing indentured servitude, right, and things like that. So it wasn't just all about race. And I think that that's something that we need to learn from as well. That these things that we believe, it wasn't just always about race, it was about social class. And social class means money. It means where you fall on the tax bracket, where you fall in your income status, where you fall in the assets that you hold, where you fall, as in the past, land was your asset, land, and then the slaves that you owned, the servants that you owned, the amount of money you could loan to people. All of those types of things determine where you placed in society, and then that determined how you were viewed in society. So it's not, when we speak of like lessons that we should be learning from Black History Month and pre-Black History Month, all throughout the founding of time. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me. It's not just about race, it's also about social class. And that's a lesson that we need to learn, that hate is not just about, those types of biases when it comes to race, but also social class. Yes, happy Black History Month. Yes, I hope you're enjoying these talks that I'm having. Make sure to check out my other ones. I'm going to be doing this for every day of Black History Month. Just us trying to learn from the past and recognizing that these lessons that we should have learned, and what Black History Month is about, is us learning, right? Or what we should have learned is all about, how it's still haunting us in present day, and we're taking it into the future, right? Because tomorrow is the future. So we're still waking up tomorrow, and it's still being things that we have not learned. And today's topic is selective protection, and when we look at it now, yeah, we can say, when a Black person commits a crime, or a brown person commits a crime, or someone that's poor commits a crime, anyone, that other that commits a crime, it's always outrage, right? It's screaming and it's hateful, and we're ready to, this person is evil, they're all evil. But when they commit the crime, and they don't have to be white, it could just be rich people, right? The they is not always about race. We have to remember that. And there's no outrage. All the screaming stops, all these people that hold power in society, whether they're leaders, thought leaders, creating the thought process of how we think in society, writing numerous books, and shaping our minds and those that are in college now, teaching them, those types of people, or just anyone that's deemed or viewed as respectable. But when they do something, it's quiet. It's whispers. It's not even a whisper, if there is a whisper, right? So when are we going to stop that? That needs to stop right here and right now. We as leaders, we have to find a way to make that stop, even within the workplace, right? Because I'm this really, my whole page is really on how we can be better CEOs in our lives and in our businesses, personally and professionally, merging those together. So even within the workplace, we see it, you know, if you work in certain divisions, one division is pitted against another. Even you have two individuals and one is viewed as more reliable, more trustworthy than the other. There can be differences based on race or based on this college they went to. The assumption and the bias that someone is more capable than the other, whatever that bias is about. And that's really what it's about. And assuming that one person is deemed in a dark light versus another, and another is upheld over another. That's selective protection, where one is viewed as, oh, well, they're going through a lot of challenges at home. I have a question. If you get a chance using science, get white, then are you going to do this or not? Can you reframe that? Using science, get white. I need you to reframe that so I can answer that clearer. But regardless of what it is, like I said, it's not necessarily all about, race, because this happens in other dynamics as well. We're just using Black history as a example of how we should have learned this and why we can't continue to move forward with this type of thinking, and we're seeing it all the time. We're seeing it currently right now. If you're following politics, how things are coming out about people, but nothing is really being done. There's a lot of yelling, there's a lot of screaming on one side, and then the other side is just in denial. So it's like, where is the accountability? Why is there this selective protection? Because even though there's outrage, there's still no real accountability happening. So it's like that even in the workplace. It's like that everywhere. So we have to look at different ways of how we as leaders can go about creating a change, right? How do we ensure that this misconduct is not minimized, right? How do we do that? And that's a hard thing to do. That's a dangerous question to even ask. Some people would dare to have that come out of their mouth, right? Because these are people that are in high positions, whether in your job, that's the boss, right? That's your managers, that's your supervisors. So it goes in all aspects of power. Or, let's say if it's something going on in the church, that means it's the preacher, it's the deacon. I'm Christian, so that's what I call it, right? Or whatever religion you're in, those that hold power. So regardless of the space we're in, when we have these selective protections, we're not able to have accountability. We're not able to protect ourselves and others, and we're not able to just be safe and provide safety for others. Not just ourselves, because it's not always about us, because when you're a leader, you're standing up not just for yourself, but everyone else, right? That's the whole idea of it. And not being fearful as well. That's what being a leader is about. Yeah, you're scared, but you're taking action. You're not just talking about it. I said, like, in future may happen, we can change power our skin color, then you going to change or not? No. Why I'm not changing. No one should have to even have that thought, really. We shouldn't think about wanting to change. I know a lot of people, they do, I hear about it, people, they go about doing different laser therapies and all that, or creams and stuff to change their skin color, not going out into the sun. The history of passing, regardless of where you are in the world, passing, where people that can be passed off as white or some other group because you look a certain way. That's a thing, coming out of, you learn from Black history. Even in Australia dealt with that as well. And I know indigenous areas, people would pass. indigenous because they don't want to be deemed as black, don't want to be deemed as indigenous or dark or whatever it is, you know? So that is a thing of the past and a lesson that we definitely should have learned from, that you should not have to feel that you have to change who you are to fit into society or to feel safe. I am a brown girl. I'm facing racism also from my mom, and I hate to hear that, and I'm so sorry to hear that, and I don't want you to feel as though you need to change who you are so that you can feel love, you know? I don't know how old you are, so I don't want to feed you information, but definitely that's a dangerous environment to be in, and dangerous actions that you're going through of someone being racist, because we have to remember that racism is a form of hate, sadly, you know? And hate is an awful, evil word. It's something that you're 14, so you mean you're 14 years old? So, oh, you're a child. Now, we got a problem here. We got a problem. You have to find safety. Have you guys spoken about that? I don't know, because I'm trying to just piece together. I'm assuming you're a minor. I got this block for minors. Hold on. But I'm glad you're here and I hope I can help you. So you don't speak about it at all. It's definitely something, and that's the thing when it comes with racism, is that we have to speak about these things. Because a lot of people, they don't really recognize that they are being racist. Because it's a social construct, you know? It's an idea that, you know, that's taught. How should you handle it? First and foremost, you need to be in a safe space, you know? If you're 14, I don't even like the idea that it's your parents, because you're relying on your parents. So, me personally, I really wouldn't even want you in the home. I wouldn't want you around it at all, you know? I want you to find somewhere safe. But I'm not sure if you're saying you're an adult or not. If you're an adult, then you should already have your own safe space, and you should have and you should also be able to speak with them. Even if you are a child, 14, you should still be able to directly speak to them about how you're feeling and address that situation. Like I said, a lot of people don't recognize that they are being racist, you know? They just don't. They were taught that way. It was something that was taught to them. It was something they were learned. It's a learned behavior. And many don't even realize that they could be hurting you unless you tell them that you're hurting them, that they're hurting you, you know? I'll give you an example. Just recently, actually, and it was something that really upset me. And it happened with my daughter. And she swims and she does aerials and she does a lot of little different things. So she's usually the only black girl, you know, she's usually the only. So she has a lot of friends that don't look like her. And one girl called her the N word, called her the hard R N word. And she kept it to herself. She didn't tell me. And she just stopped talking to the girl. And then I found out, and of course, you know, I'm making a huff about it. Why didn't you tell me? You need to let me know. And I guess because I speak about these things, so it's like, to her, she felt like she didn't want me to make an issue of it. So first and foremost, that lets you know that, like, you got to communicate. Communication is everything when it comes to this. And once we communicate, then I brought it to the attention of the people there. And, you know, of course, they didn't want to believe that the girl said it. That's first and foremost. People will always believe selective protection. That's why I'm speaking on this as well. I've gone through my own issues of dealing with selective protection. The assumption that she didn't mean it, or the assumption that she would never say that. Oh, she would never say that, you know. But my daughter, oh, why did she say that? You know, it's strange. And this is the bias of them as well. So this is what I mean, where we have to communicate. Because once you start communicating, then people start realizing that they have their own biases and their own issues. And if we don't communicate about it, then how are we to go about changing it? And I guess from there, my daughter and her, they ended up speaking and acting like they've made up, but the thought is always in the back of someone's mind. I mean, but turns out the girl didn't even think it was a bad word. And that's because that's how she was raised. And that's just one of those things, where we have to communicate our way through it, and we have to hold people accountable by letting them know that they are hurting you and they are hurting others through their actions. Now, some don't care that they're hurting other people, and that's fine, but at least you've addressed it and you've brought some form of accountability. That's the first step to going about and ensuring that someone is being held accountable. Is that it starts with communication. And that's the first thing that we need to learn to utilize. I mean, we all have a voice. It's how we use it that matters. And that's the thing. A lot of people just don't use their voice. What good is your voice if you're not going to use it? How are we going to demand something or complain about something or view that we're being, mistreated, but we're not speaking up? We're too fearful to say something. We're outraged, but we're only outraged at certain times. And when certain people are doing the negative actions. But we're not outraged enough to ensure that those that we deem as powerful or deem as likable or someone we think we know, this could even go to like celebrities, right? That's another group where we think we know them, especially if we're following them on social media. You don't know them. You don't know any of these people, and they're all human, and all humans have free will. And it can result in them doing things that result in hindering and suppressing other people. So it's definitely something that starts with us taking action and us not being afraid to speak up and us calling it out when it happens right then and there. Change starts with you. So you have to be the change. Because other than that, these types of behaviors will continue to follow us into the future. That's why we're dealing with them now. These are lessons that we should have learned from the past. I think I think I saw somewhere, I forgot what it said. This is a 100th anniversary or something like that for or the 50th anniversary of Black History Month, something like that. I should have wrote it down before I came on. But it's a major milestone, this Black History Month is. And that's why it's another reason why I'm doing this. And it's important that we speak on this and learn from these lessons, because how else can we create a better future? Because we're definitely in a time where people that have not learned those lessons of the past are trying to take us back, so we don't even need to speak about these. It's even a dirty word to just say black, depending on where you are. Welcome back, Monique. Did I make you a moderator? I feel like you're always in here. You want to be a moderator? I feel like you're always in here. Let me see. Let me figure out how to do it. I feel like you're always in here. There you go. Because you're always in here. I always see your name. All right. But yeah, I just think that, we're at a time where if we don't learn from these lessons, they're already bringing us back to when we should have already, when we were going through these lessons, because they didn't want to learn those lessons presently, from past to present. They didn't want to learn these lessons. So now into the future, they're trying to take us back to when we should have, when we were struggling. Nobody's trying to do all that. That's crazy. We are not trying to relive the past. The past was awful. Who wants to relive the past? That's one thing I don't understand. I don't understand that, and I never understood even the slogan of, not trying to be political, but I just don't understand the slogan of "Make America Great Again." I just don't understand it. The 50s sucked. Like, think back then, like, people were dying from all kinds of weird chemicals and stuff. Like, even if you just take away all of that type of thinking, life was hard. Life was hard compared to now. The technology wasn't the same. I mean, just everything. No, I don't see it. I'm cool. It was a lot of work to cook and clean all day as a woman. As a woman back in the past, cooking and cleaning all day was hard. Like, it was hard. And then we always hear stories about how a lot of the women were very depressed. And, but at that time, that's when they were really giving housewives pills and stuff. That's why we still have a pill epidemic now. And why? Because that's when pills started being a thing. You hear about it in Hollywood too. But, giving women pills so they could make it through the day, because so that they could just cook and clean and just be in the house all day. And it's just awful. It's just, who wants to do that all day? They didn't even want to do it. So what makes you think I want to do it or anybody else would want to do it? So just thinking of that is, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. That does not sound great. Just, that does not sound great at all. So I just be thinking about that. Like, we're moving into the future. So the idea is to make life easier, right? That's why we have all these technologies and things like that. This is why it's stupid to be racist. It's just dumb. Like, why? Life is so much easier now. We're awakening and into the understanding that we don't need to be that way, but people still choose to be that way. And it's so weird. Yeah, exactly. And it's just strange. It's just, I don't understand it. And it's just definitely, honestly, I think it's a way to make money. Hate makes money, right? When you feed off of rage and create these issues that aren't really there, but we can make an excuse for why they're there, instead of the real problem being that we're just not ensuring an equal playing field for the world. It's upholding power for the few, and then everyone else is just at the bottom. But if we keep everyone divisive and fighting, we don't realize that the ones at the top with the power are the ones causing all the chaos, you know? I don't know. I don't know, but we definitely got to move away from selective protection. That is for sure. That is for sure. Everyone needs to be held accountable, regardless of who you are. I don't care how much money you have, where you live, what group you represent, any of that. That is the lesson of the day. Ending selective protection. We cannot be only outraged for one group and not another, regardless of how powerful you are, how rich you are, where you live in society, how you have contributed to society. You will be held accountable if you do wrong or if you say wrong, any of that. And I think that that's definitely a lesson that needed to be learned, you know, pre Black History Month, but definitely after Black History Month. It's definitely a lesson that we should have learned in society. And it's sad. But I will continue to do these talks, and I'm going to be back tomorrow. I have not figured out what I want to speak about tomorrow. If you guys have any suggestions, just put it in the chat. Or not chat. Yeah, the chat, because it's still open. But put it in the description, in the comments, and I will see you then. Remember to be the change, love yourself and others, and have a great day. Bye.